Hello everyone, Simon Jacobson here, another episode of Meaningful Live. There is nothing as whole as a broken heart. This program is dedicated in honor of Jay Gainsborough, our dear friend, with gratitude and warm wishes on his birthday. May you have many healthy, blessed years, continue to actualize and illuminate the world with your unique energy. The expression "there's nothing as whole as a broken heart" is part of a longer three-phrase expression which goes like this. There's nothing as crooked as a straight lie. There's nothing as straight as a crooked ladder. And there's nothing as whole as a broken heart. Which seems obviously paradoxical. But when you think about it, you really come to appreciate a profound truth in life. If you were asked, what would you prefer? A life of no pain, no loss, no challenges, complete bliss, animal bliss. Or a life with challenges, not too much, nothing overwhelming, but for every challenge, you're also given the strength to deal with that challenge. So many people ostensibly would answer the first option. Hey, if you can get a life of pure bliss, but is that really a life? Besides, is it realistic? I mentioned a number of times this cardiologist that I know to come to my classes, a very sweet man, but had a very difficult life. And he once came to me really exasperated and saying, please, give me a blessing. I should just have a day of bliss, total bliss. Being a cardiologist, and he had a good sense of humor, so I said, you mean like a straight line? He said, no, not so much bliss. As we all know, a straight line is not a good sign. A cardiogram, a healthy cardiogram of a healthy heart, is a wave, peaks and valleys, evenly balanced. You don't want extreme peaks, you don't want extreme valleys. But that's life. Life is mobility and movement. What you really want is a life where the challenges that you're confronted with come along with strength, or at least the confidence that you have strength to deal with it, to navigate. That's the blessing you want. Not that the waters will always be calm, but to navigate no matter what comes your way. So the fact of the matter, life, by very definition, if you're going to have relationships, and you're going to have love, there's going to be vulnerability, and there's always the potential for disappointment, because you're dealing with other people. You can't control the script as much as we'd like to. So what you really want to know is how to navigate. So the first point is this. There's nothing as complete as a broken heart, because it tells you that life is not just about smooth riding, but there's also breaks in life. And part of being complete is also complete in every possible way, including the things that are not always complete. And navigating through that broken heart. Hemingway put it this way. Life breaks all people, but some are stronger in the broken places. He unfortunately was not. So there's that element. Then it goes even further than that. If you're really compassionate and empathetic, and you love someone, you are going to have a broken heart at times. And that's part of being complete. We'll call it the celebration of vulnerability. Being vulnerable sounds, for many, very foreboding. I don't want to be vulnerable. Vulnerable sounds defenseless, sounds fragile, I could be hurt. But vulnerability is part of life's relationship. If you build your life with such complex defense mechanisms, as many people have done, due to the pains, due to the traumas, due to the different suffering they've gone through. But remember, armor works both ways. Yes, it protects you, nobody can hurt you, but also nobody can get in. And you can't get out. And sometimes people's armor becomes their identity. So what's the solution? You want love in your life. It can't just go one way, where you receive the love but you don't give, where someone is not receiving from you. And as soon as you love someone else, someone will say, you know what, I just want to be loved. I don't want to love anyone because I can get hurt by them. We understand the temptation, but that's not a complete life. So it's not about being vulnerable is the problem. It's about having the strength to be vulnerable. Again, to navigate. Now, of course, you need to have someone you trust. You don't want to be vulnerable with someone you can't trust. There are predators out there. There are people that can hurt and do hurt. But finding someone you can trust, that may be the challenge. But when you do, you have to be able to be open. And yes, there is a certain element of exposure when you're vulnerable, but it's also the most beautiful part of it. Look how we're drawn to children, newborn children. What are we really drawn to? Obviously, there's a certain beauty, a perfection like freshly fallen snow. Everything's so clean about them, so smooth, so gentle. But there's also the vulnerability that we're drawn to. We may not admit it, but that's a big part of it. Unfortunately, people do take advantage and they exploit and abuse. But if you think about it, the vulnerability itself is divine. I mentioned freshly fallen snow. Of course, yes, freshly fallen snow is so white. One step on it, and it starts already getting smudged or dirty. And that's sad. But do we want to compromise and say, I don't want to have that innocence, that vulnerability? As adults, we wish we could hold on to some of that innocence of our childhood. But we learn to swim with the sharks, as they say, because you have to protect yourself. You're not going to take care of yourself, no one else will. But there's a beauty when we're able to find that rosebud, using Citizen Kane expression, that innocence, that purity. There's something that resonates within us. I would submit that music, when music touches us, it's touching that innocent part. But we immediately, of course, surround it with layers and layers, armor, defense mechanisms, because we don't want to be hurt. We don't want anyone to know we're vulnerable. What did Churchill say? That in time of war, the truth is so precious, you have to surround it by an army of lies. So yes, there are times that in time of war you may need to do that, but you don't want to become the lie. You don't want to become the armor. So how do we maintain ability to have that vulnerability and not be hurt? The answer is to find people in our lives that we can be that way with. Obviously, when you're out there in the battle zone, you need to protect yourself. Even then, you don't want to compromise your most cherished values. But there, you may need, because you're dealing with, as I said, sharks or whatever it may be. But you don't want to lose it as a person, because it's really that sparkle that keeps you alive, that keeps you young. Always feeling the idealism that no, you've not become jaded enough or cynical, where you've given up on some of the dreams and aspirations. You hold on to them. Yes, that free abandon, that adventure, that sense of letting it all go as children have, or when we're younger we have. And that's really what life is all about. And I speak about it now because we're now in the period in the Jewish calendar, in the 9 days, where we talk about broken hearts. We talk about broken walls. We talk about shattered temples. We talk about everything that breaks in our lives. The dissonance, psychologically, emotionally, physically. Dreams that were shattered. Promises broken. I mean, we all have a litany, a list of disappointments in our lives. The question is, what do you do with that? So some people become bitter. Some become cynical. Some become detached. Some go into denial. And some are still suffering because they don't know how to handle it. And you become either a codependent or an enabler, or you're contributing to the problem. There's another solution. And that's what we learn from this period in time. There's a custom you may be familiar with. At Jewish weddings, after the wedding ceremony, at the end, under the canopy, the chuppah, the custom is they break a glass. A glass is put on the floor, and the groom steps on the glass and they break the glass. Why? So the obvious reason, because it reminds us of the destruction of the temple. But why then? Of all times, the high point of a new couple is their marriage. A couple. So why at that moment of the high point? There'll be plenty of time to remind ourselves of losses and breakings and so on. And the answer is a very powerful one. It's a sign of true humility and learning how to navigate life. It's saying that even though I'm right now at the height of my joy, and I've found my soulmate, and we're celebrating, I don't forget that the world is still not complete. There's still broken hearts. There's still people who are suffering. There's still people who are not so happy. I remember them. And I know that one day, when I go through my challenges, I also won't be completely consumed with my challenges and my breaks, because just as I remembered those broken when I was complete, I will be remembered when I have some break in my life. Because life is a wheel, like I said, the cardiogram. So it's a humility, recognizing that life is not just about me. And when you're happy, you're so happy, you don't leave room for anyone else. A type of arrogance almost, self-centeredness. And the other way around as well, that when things are not going so well, don't become so consumed, which is another form of arrogance, just a negative form of arrogance, that nothing can be, there's no hope. There's no light at the end of the tunnel, because I am right now in sadness, in pain. You always have both sides. Even in the things that are complete, there's always a little break. And anything that's broken, there's always something that's complete. Nothing is as complete as a broken heart. For all the above reasons. Something to think about in our times where we get so distracted and deceived, frankly, by the comfort zones of our high standard of living. You press a button and you can have an order delivered to your home in 20 minutes and a half hour. We're like supermen, superwomen, invulnerable. Anything is possible. But when it comes to the personal life, your emotional life, all the technology in the world is not going to solve your problems. When you feel lonely, when you feel broken, when you feel down, we simply need a hug, an embrace. We need each other. And we need to know that no, there's no such thing as damaged goods. You're not broken. You may have a break in your life, but it doesn't define you. Yes, the temple was destroyed, but it didn't define us. We learn from it. We learn how to fix it. We learn how to repair. We learn how to build a better one. But we don't become defined by it. What we define by is our soul's ability to navigate and its resilience to get through any situation and its indestructibility. That's the message and the lesson in life. And if you don't feel that, find people, others, support systems. Connect to spiritual tools. I talk about immersing yourself in a spiritual spa. SPA, acronym for study, prayer, action. Cognitive, emotional, and behavioral conditioning. Study every day, something spiritual. Let your soul be nurtured. Prayer, emotional, read a poem. Pray, something that touches your heart, a song. And action, behavior. Do a good deed, an act of kindness, an unconditional act of kindness, a random act of kindness. Pay it forward. Those things will affect and nurture and feed, and yes, soothe your soul and give you the power to navigate through the vicissitudes and the ups and downs, inevitable ups and downs of life. Thank you. This has been Simon Jacobson, Meaningful Live. MeaningfulLife.com is our website. Please subscribe to our offerings, to our YouTube channel. Please share with others if this was meaningful to you. And I'd love to hear your thoughts, your feedback, your comments. Thank you. Be well. Be complete, but also have the breaks that are necessary to be complete.